Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin visited Iturup, a Japan-claimed island at the end of the Kuril chain near the island of Hokkaido.
But remember, Moscow and Tokyo never really signed a formal World War II peace treaty, as the main hurdle was this unresolved territorial dispute over the islands, which Japan calls the Northern Territories.
On the trip, which state news agency TASS described as Putin's first in passing to the island chain, he visited the Yazhny fish processing plant on Iturup after overseeing the Navy drills in Russia's Far East.
Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi was quick to criticize and condemn the visit. Takaichi claimed Putin's trip has worsened Japanese sentiment toward Russia, maintaining that the island chain was a unique territory of Japan historically and under international law.
Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the Japan-Russia relationship has been in a difficult state. Even under such circumstances, Japan has made every possible effort to improve the relationship. However, this visit will only deepen negative sentiment towards Russia in Japan and make it harder to rebuild relations for the long term.
So let's tell you how this entire conflict really plays out. As you can see in this particular map, there lies the Kuril Islands. There are 4 regions: Konashir, Iturup, Shikotan and Habomai. These are where, Russia claims control, and this dates back to the World War II, after the Soviet Union, the then Soviet Union, had captured these. And since then, Japan has been trying to lay their claim on their territory. But clearly, Russia now reclaiming and reiterating its own control, with Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, visiting this particular area, particularly, of course, Iturup.
The Northern Territories are an inherent part of Japan's territory, both historically and under international law. This latest visit to Iturup Island by the incumbent president of Russia runs contrary to Japan's consistent position regarding the Northern Territories. Furthermore, it hurts the feelings of the Japanese people and is absolutely unacceptable.
Putin's Kuril trip also comes against a backdrop of increased military activity in the Asia-Pacific region. The Russian president had traveled to the Far East to oversee the final stage of large-scale Pacific Fleet exercises that began on the 4th of August. Putin's visit to the island comes 2 days before Japan marks 81 years since its surrender ended World War II, and a day after North Korea fired a missile into the sea, separating it from Japan ahead of the major joint military exercises by Seoul and Washington.
There is nothing more important than achieving goals on the front lines in the special military operation. But you are not in the rear. You are also on the front line, because the combat readiness of the armed forces and the Navy must be maintained in order to protect the entire territory of Russia.
The Kuril Islands are a strategic area for Russia, which has beefed up its military presence on the islands over the past decade. The island of Iturup is used as its primary military air base in the region. Russia also holds regular military drills near the islands, drawing condemnation from Japan.
Over the years, attempts to resolve the territorial dispute have made little progress. Bilateral ties have also remained frosty, with Japan imposing sanctions against Russia for its invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Japan has protested against previous visits by Russian officials to the disputed islands, including former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev.
Dr. Volker Stanzel is a former German ambassador to China, senior distinguished fellow at German Institute for International and Security Affairs. He is now joining us live on the broadcast from Berlin. Dr. Stanzel, thank you very much for your time and welcome to the broadcast. Why do you think President Putin chose this time to visit the island, and why this time for Russia, or why this time for the president, excuse me for that, because this is the first time that the president has visited this island?
Yes, that's right. But it still has to be seen as part of the whole picture, which is a wide-reaching one. You have described the background to it, the San Francisco Peace Treaty, which actually foresees that Japan renounces all rights to these islands, but agreement efforts made between Russia and Japan in the years since the late 1950s, where Russia has said that it would be ready to hand over 2 of the 4 islands to Japan if a peace treaty was concluded. It was not. And the reason is one of the first major aspects of this whole problem. That is that about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, people discovered the rich mineral holes that you find in the sea around these islands, plus much fish that are sought after by the Japanese fisher in the region and also by Russian fishers. So there's a great economic value to having these islands, or at least having 2 of them. But Medvedev went there in 2010, I think, to express his determination not to hand over any of these islands. So that is the backdrop of what we're seeing now. But now we see, on the one hand, Japan, after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, declaring that what's happening in Europe, what is happening in Europe, in Ukraine, is also something that concerns Japan, and thus has supported Ukraine and European countries intensely since then. And of course, the Russian president, with the Russian position in Ukraine not being as strong as he would like to, takes, I think, great importance in showing Japan that Russia still is Russia, and it is a strong country, even in the Northeast Pacific.
Dr. Tussle, then help us understand this. How do you see this moving forward? Because the Japanese Prime Minister has registered her strong protest over this trip. Japan has been strengthening its own defense alliances and military strength domestically as well. How do you see then this conflict moving forward, considering the fact that both sides are adamant?
Yeah, there's the aspect of the USA, of course.
Yes.
Russia and China in the region have cooperated by doing joint bomber flights, by naval maneuvers since some years already. And that, of course, means that when they're together there in this region, they can reach out all the way to the Bering Strait and to Alaska, meaning they constitute a threat to the United States. Now, if Russia declares its position as clearly as Putin does now, this is also a threat to the United States, together with the position that China is taking here. Now, how will this evolve? I do think that Japan will look how it can send signals to Moscow that it is not giving in, neither on the islands nor on the position it holds towards China, towards Russia, and also even on the Ukraine war.
Dr. Tussle, we'll have to wait and see how this situation unfolds, because these 2 countries are at loggerheads when it comes to the Kuril Islands. But at this time, thank you very much for talking to us today.
You're welcome.